Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is September 13th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. Check out our next frontal system out over the coastal waters. It'll be pushing through here over the next couple of days, bringing some precipitation, some thunderstorm potential, and then we've got some interesting stuff showing up in the wake of this frontal system, and we'll take a look at the extended forecast as always as we go through the video here this morning. So taking a look here, visible satellite imagery, you can see southwest BC, some of western Washington is socked in. Actually, Seattle Metro is already starting to get some sunshine, though. Some clouds around Portland. Oregon, Washington coast, fairly well socked in here this morning, unless you're across some of the higher terrain of the coastal range and for the Olympic Mountains as well. East of the mountains, you're dealing with something different as the smoky skies are still present. However, some good news on that, and I'll show you that here in a moment. Thunderstorm activity yesterday, just a few strikes across eastern Washington, Oregon, and this next system up will continue some of this thunderstorm activity here across the Pacific Northwest. So looking at the latest high resolution rapid refresh, this model runs every single hours, and every 6 hours it goes out 48 hours into the future. So if we scroll through the day today, you notice Seattle and Portland, some of the Willamette Valley, Southwest BC, the coastal areas not dealing with any smoke. And as we go through the day on Sunday, check it out. We clear out much of the area, but we do still have some of these fires burning across the region. So if you're located close to one of these fires, you're still going to be dealing with some of that smoke. But it's nice to see the majority of that smoke get shunted off to the east here. And as we move on in towards fall here, you just have to be patient, and we'll eventually start to get these fires out. They may not be completely out though until we got later into the fall and maybe on into winter. Some of the winter snows may have to come before we fully extinguish all these fires across the area. Now, just a reminder here, you can go to this here and scan that, and you can become a weather spotter as well. You don't have to live in this area, and this is going to be online here, and you can email the National Weather Service, Missoula, Montana. So fun stuff there. And a lot of the offices will hold these weather spotter talks, fun things to do, and it definitely will improve your situational awareness of the weather in your area. Now, here's day one. Thunderstorm outlook, we'll go to that. And you can kind of see this would be very late tonight into tomorrow morning, and then day two pushes off to the east here. But there is a caveat to that I'll show you here more in a moment. Now, let's take a look here at 500 millibars. This is our frontal system. This trough out here, this is what's driving the frontal system. A little bit of a ridge passing across the area. There's the ridge axis. Trough axis is right there. Hawaiian Islands to the bottom left of this image. We put this into motion, and there goes our frontal system swinging through the area. It's going to favor Oregon a little bit more than Washington here, but still some chances across the region for precipitation. You see the next ridge trying to push on in here as we go through next week. This may actually turn flow back offshore for a time. I'll show you more on that here in a moment. Hopefully it doesn't, kickstart the fires a little bit more there. But again, it becomes more difficult at this time of year. We've got longer nights, and we're not going to warm up quite as much. So then we shouldn't be dealing with those big firestorms anymore that producing those huge pyrocumulus clouds and creating their own lightning. At least I hope not. And then we scroll off into the extended a little bit more. We go through midweek, and you see this next frontal system trying to clip us there. But again, we still have some ridging around. So yeah, we'll take a look at what this means as far as temperatures here more in a moment as well. So let's take a look here at this frontal system as it approaches. You can see as we go through tonight, it's about 7 p.m. right there, just approaching Quileute. Now it's approaching the Oregon coast here as we go through this evening as well. There's about we're talking about 10 o'clock. It starts to rain at Astoria and maybe Long Beach, Ocean Shores, up into Vancouver Island. And as we go through the overnight hours, you could get thunderstorm activity, probably a little bit better chances with that, again, across portions of Oregon. And then as we scroll in through Sunday, you notice how not a lot of this is getting into Seattle and Everett and Bellingham, though, and the majority of that was coming across for portions of Oregon. Now, in the wake of that, though, as we go through the day Sunday, we may get a convergence zone there, mainly north of Seattle into Snohomish and the King County border there as we go on into Sunday. More on that here in a moment. We can kind of see those showers hanging out, and we will have thunderstorm potential east of the mountains as well, as you can see some of these heavier showers out there that could be those thunderstorms as we go through the day on Sunday as that pushes off to the east. Now, 900 millibars. So a couple things I want to show you with this. You can see the southerlies in advance of this frontal system, just some blustery conditions. This is not a windstorm by any stretch of the imagination. You see the westerlies gusting through the Columbia River gorge there right on the Washington-Oregon border. Coming across eastern Washington, some blustery winds as well, and nothing too extreme. But then you notice behind the frontal system how things start to turn out of the northwest. So watch what happens here. When they come out of the northwest, it's a pretty good indicator that we're going to have some kind of convergence zone activity in the wake of a frontal system. And then you can see it. There go the westerlies coming across Whidbey Island through the Chehalis Gap. And those meet on the leeward side of the Olympic Mountains. And that's where that convergence zone would be setting up as we go through the day on Sunday. Cannot rule out a thunderstorm with that action there. And you can clearly see it. This is a nice convergence zone 101 as we go through the day on Sunday. And then watch what happens as we start to head off in towards Monday. You see things start to turn offshore right at the end of the run here a little bit. Things start to turn. I'll show you more here on that in the European in a moment. Now, let's check out the European here really quick. Pretty good timing, or a pretty good agreement in the timing there with the high resolution model. And then you can see the convergence zone setting up as you go through Sunday afternoon there. Again, northern portions of King County, southern Snohomish County. Some areas could get some pretty decent amounts on this, but if you're south or north of that Puget Sound convergence zone, you're like, hey, where's my rainfall? Now, a little bit closer look here. Again, some of these totals may be up over 3/4 of an inch for this location right there. King County, Snohomish border. You know who you are. You deal with the convergence zone more frequently than other locations, but this convergence zone, I've seen it swing all the way down south past Tacoma. It can go much further north. I've even seen reverse convergence zones come around the Olympic Mountains and hit places like Highway 101 and Highway 12, going back and forth to the coastal areas too. So it can get a bit crazy, but this is usually the more persistent area where the convergence zone sets up. So now looking at the European, we're looking at 2,500 feet. There goes the frontal system, the southerlies in advance, and the northwest winds behind it. Convergence zone activity. You can see it wrapping around the Olympic Mountains there. And then we scroll off in towards Monday and notice how things start to become northerly and they start to even come out of the northeast across the Willamette Valley. Look at things turn back offshore as we go through Monday night, at least for a time, in advance of this next week system that's going to be moving mainly north of the area. And then you can kind of see the wind shift up again here a bit as we still have some ridging. You can kind of see the northerly winds here. So we're not fully onshore for much of the time. Even got some northerlies coming down the Okanagan River Valley here across portions of Washington. Now, looking at the European, lightning flash density potential as we go through into tomorrow morning. It does show a little potential for the Washington coast as well, a little bit better across portions of Oregon. And then you see this on Sunday. That's probably convergent zone associated. It does show a little bit of instability there and also east of the mountains as well. Don't want to leave that out. And then, yeah, we'll worry about that later. Now, looking at the HRRR, we'll go through this really quickly. And as we go on in through Sunday morning, again, that's why the National Weather Service had some of Oregon targeted there. And you can see this. We go through Sunday morning, maybe eastern Washington, Pendleton out there, Spokane, northeast Oregon, Idaho Panhandle as you go through the day on Sunday. Didn't show too much for the convergence zone. Little blurb right there, probably associated with it. But, yeah. Now, taking a look at the fantasy windstorm, this is Portland. You can see it gets a little bit blustery here. You know, the control says 28, but again, that's not going to cause much damage or anything like that. And that's on the 16th. This is actually the frontal system coming in now. I should make that clear. Just some blustery winds, hardly anything you're going to notice. But check it out on ensemble member number 41 off in towards September 23rd, the afternoon, evening. It does show a windstorm 51 miles per hour, but you can see that is just one of many possibilities here, just one out of 50. So you wouldn't even give it a 2% chance because it's just a random ensemble. The control run has nothing of the sort involved with it. In Seattle, you can see a few blustery periods as we go on into the end of September. But again, nothing you would get worried about. Yeah, there's no consensus out here on any kind of big windstorm or anything like that in our future. Now, looking at the artificial intelligence, so there goes our frontal system right there, swinging through the area. There goes that ridge where we may turn things back offshore as we go on in through Monday night into Tuesday. Next frontal system tries to swing through, but there's another ridge right behind that as well. And you can see the Gulf of Alaska trough roaming around out there, and it brings a deeper trough down off our coastline. We'll have to see what's going to come of that. You know, we're looking a little bit too far out to get in much details here, but it's pretty typical at this time of year to be going through transitions of ridges and troughs here across the region. Now let's update this, make sure we got the latest there. We just updated to the most recent. This is Saturday, September 13th. So not a bad day in advance of this frontal system. And you're talking about some mid and upper 70s here for maybe Western Washington, some 80s out there for the Willamette Valley as possible, lower 80s, and some mid 80s there east of the mountains as well. with some smoky skies. But look as the frontal system comes through. The highs are going to be noticeably cooler tomorrow across much of the region, as you can see. And then we go through Monday, Tuesday. Look at that. We warm things back up with that offshore flow. Check it out. Some 80s may return, at least temporarily, some upper 80s for the Willamette Valley. So that's the result of that offshore flow. And then we cool things back down as we probably turn things a little bit back more onshore as we go through Wednesday. And then there's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we get back down. It's just more comfortable temperatures. So maybe a 1 day, a little bit of a warm spell here for the region. This time of year, it's fairly warm, but it's not something that's really going to heat up your house too much just being for 1 day. And plus the overnight hours are becoming more plentiful. The sun sets earlier and whatnot. So taking a look at the artificial intelligence, we'll scroll through here really quick. 15-day period. I mean, let me scroll up there and stop at 15 days. You can see that we're starting to really target some of BC here, according to the artificial intelligence model. In fact, I'm going to back out a little bit here. The Northwest will give us a wider view. And yeah, so hopefully maybe some of those storm systems will maybe nudge their way a bit further south as we go at some point through the month of September, because you can see some areas still not picking up a lot of precipitation. And look at the 46-day forecast here just for fun. You can see that you still can warm up at this time of year all the way through early October. It continues to kind of hint at a signal there of being a ridge around and maybe some nice weather as we go through the first week of October. But you see the overall gradual downward trend. Then look at the models kind of showing something chillier period here as we go through the later portion of October. And I kind of just wanted to go out there and look at that, purely fantasy, but look at some of these lows swinging through the area as we go through the second half of October. That would be kind of fun stuff here. I mean, some pretty chilly stuff, windstorm potential, atmospheric rivers, who knows? But it is that time of year where those systems start to approach our region. Now, 6 to 10 day, I mean, the entire lower 48, they just painted above normal chances, and 6 to 10 day, kind of near normal for some areas and above normal for some as well. And 8 to 14 day, something similar. But yeah, check out the Patreon page if you want to throw some of your hard-earned money towards the channel. Patreon lets creators keep about 90% of what you donate to the channel goes to the creator. So anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. Click like and subscribe. We'll do this all again tomorrow, and I'll talk to you guys then.